Countdown to economic collapse.
Hello, my name is Dave DeCash, and I'm an economist. I've been practicing for more than 20 years, and I just wanted to let you know about the Goldman Sachs. It leads the decline as Wall Street's commodities revenues plummet. This is the fear that I have had, and many economists have had recently, regarding the supposed recovery of our economy. As von Mises once said in his seminal works regarding deflationary trends in economy, even if you print all the money in the world, the value of the currency will decline over time. And Bernanke, he sure knows that. He's a trained economist. However, his background is actually in mathematics, so he has very little economics training. I'm an economist, however, and have extensive training. And von Mises was the first one to point out that if you, by governmental fiat, print ever-ending amounts of currency, the value will decline. In fact, Ludwig von Mises, in The Theory of Money and Credit, page 14, states, "None of the arguments that economics advances against the inflationary and expansionist doctrine is likely to impress demagogues, for the demagogue does not bother about the remoter consequences of his policies. He chooses inflation and credit expansion, although he knows that the boom they create is short-lived and must inevitably end in a slump. He may even boast of his neglect of the long-term effects. In the long run," he repeats, "we are all dead. It is only the short run that counts." And according to that definition, Ben Bernanke is entirely a demagogue. He's increased the money supply year after year to cover up for his lack of training in true economics. But the economics question that remains, Mr. Ben Bernanke, is how long will the short run last? It seems that statements and politicians have considerably overrated the duration of the short run. And Mr. Bernanke, the upcoming global economic superstorm of 2013 can be rested squarely at your feet. In fact, you're not qualified to be ahead of the Federal Reserve. The only reason he got the job is because he had a highest SAT score in his high school exams. Then he went to Princeton and got a mathematics degree, as economics is almost entirely higher mathematics. And upon graduation and matriculation from Princeton, he found he could make no money being a mathematician. So he decided to become an economist. And therefore we have this implausibly unbelievably short-sighted policy of pumping up the money supply year after year, devaluing the currency, which is going to result in the inevitable collapse of the dollar. There's going to be rioting in the streets as people no longer can purchase food.
Countdown to economic collapse.
The United States is headed for a total collapse. And it's not going to be just a financial collapse. Financial collapse is a huge part of the equation, obviously, but there's much more to this picture. A nation that is socially unified and politically sound can quickly recover from a currency crisis, stock market collapse, or even the loss of a war. But when a nation is fractured ideologically, corruption at every level of government and finance, and with a culture that has become hedonistic, superficial, and self-absorbed, the chances of that nation holding together through a serious shock are very
slim. At the end of World War II, with hyperinflation of upwards of 2,000% a year, by the time the worker would cash his paycheck and run to the store to buy a loaf of bread, The currency had devalued to such an extent he couldn't even purchase it. That's what's going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Bernanke, for your number one, lack of training, and number two, your expansion of the money supply to the point where, in the long run, we are all dead.
Countdown to economic collapse.
This is The Weird, Unsatisfying Case Against S&P by Bethany McLean of Reuters. And finally, this comment came from one of the bloggers that said, you could look across the entire mortgage real estate sector of the economy and see the exact same manner of unethical practices in nearly every corner. Now remember, back in 2010, S&P told Barack Obama if he didn't cut the budget, we'd be facing a lower credit rating. Well, is it possible Barack Obama is trying to discredit the discreditors? As the market began to melt down in 2007, S&P fully understood that it was helping the investment banks move bad securities off their books and onto the laps of investors, and took pride in the money it was making as a result. The government says from September of 04 through October of 07, S&P slapped credit rating